Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, January 19th, 2018 at 8 a.m. Eastern Time for your first daily dose of happy. And Tom has come up with a very appropriate topic for the day, and one that we don't really think about as much as we perhaps should have if we're trying to be deliberate creators using the law of attraction. But it's one that deserves a lot more attention than it gets. Let's put it that way. So, Tom, I want to congratulate you for coming up with it. But first, before we get to that, it's wins time. Well, we got to talk about what's been going on, right? Because you have to raise your vibration before you get going, right, with anything that you're doing. It's the first thing that you always do, right? You say, okay, well, I hope this is what you're doing first. This is what I'm trying to focus on doing first. Every single time throughout the day, I try to get myself into alignment. And you get yourself into alignment by focusing on what's going well. So, Tom, what's going well?
Lots of things. I think the thing that's the most interesting right now for me is that I started a class in becoming a channel, learning how to channel my higher self, my infinite self, or whatever I'm channeling from the unseen realm. You could call it my allies, my all that is, whatever that thing is in that infinite realm that wants to speak through me, that is my real self. And what's happened is that I just started the class this last week, and I've done a couple of channelings, one that I recorded my voice and one that I did through automatic writing, which I've done before. But it was really fun to see that I really could let something come through that felt fantastic. And it wasn't, earth-shattering, but it was good. It's the beginning of developing this new habit, this new skill. So that was quite a win for me.
That's very good.
How about you?
Let's see. I always tend to draw my wins more from the mundane than anything else. But the book development is still going strong. We're now up to 37 co-authors out of the goal of 50. So only 13 spots left. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, 37. It's been great.
37.
And 37 enthusiastic people too. That's what's really neat, because every time I find a life coach who wants to contribute an article or a story or two or something, they always say it enthusiastically. They're always really excited. Of course, I would kind of expect that, I guess, because they're LOA coaches, right? So they know and understand the importance of being positive and feeling good and so forth. But nevertheless, I mean, some of the superlatives have been really, really good. Like, they're like psyched to do this. So that makes me feel psyched.
That's good.
It makes me feel good, because every time I get one of those, it's like one little, juicer, right? It gives me a little bit more juice that particular moment of the day. I like it.
Yeah. Makes the project a lot more fun when you feel that everybody's on board with that kind of energy.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
That plus the fact that I'm now starting to get the submissions. I think I have 7 or 8 who have already submitted their stories, and the submissions are really good. I mean, let me tell you, folks, you're going to want to see. You're going to want to get a copy of this book once it's done, which is going to be, I think, somewhere in the latter part of February is when it's going to get published. And this is going to be well worth it. You're going to want this. And by the way, we're also going to give all of our listeners away, if they're listening carefully and they're listening to all the podcasts, they're going to find out how they can get a free copy within a very, very narrow window of opportunity. So you'll want to stay subscribed to the podcast and listening to all the shows, so you know exactly when that's going to happen. It's been great.
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, I've still got to get my submission in.
There you go.
Take the time to get this really written, but I've got some great ideas. So
cool. The other good thing that happened
it's gonna be good.
Overnight is that we had our 17,000th play of the episodes of LOA Today since November 2016. Wow. Yeah, so it's moving right along. I mean, I'm expecting we're going to at least reach 19,000. We may even reach 20,000 plays by the end of January, which would be phenomenal.
20,000 total plays since the show started, or
since I was able to first start measuring it in November 2016. I know that people were downloading before then, but I didn't have good software that would enable me to do it, and it's not something that you can easily count. I mean, like, Google Analytics out of the box won't count it. There's no way it knows how to do it, because it needs to be able to count web pages, and it's not a web page, it's a file that's being downloaded. And there's there are whole technical things involved there. So there are special ways you can code it, and I've since been learning about that. But you can code your URL so it can be detected. But even then, you also have to have a way to take that coding and count it, and turn it into counting. So I found software that plugs into my website that enables me to do exactly that. So that's how I'm counting it now. I also know that, like, when the first month that we did it, November 2016, the number of downloads for the month were well under 100. So I'm pretty sure that for the first, 4.5 years, the numbers were down below 100 a month. So they weren't really big numbers. All of the growth has happened in the past 12 months. It's been terrific.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah, lots of good stuff happening.
Exponential growth.
Exponential. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I make a graph of it. I use a spreadsheet and, map everything out. And then, with spreadsheets, you can turn it into a graph. I turn it into a graph, and every month the graph is pointing straight up. I'm thinking, this is good stuff.
That's great. The hockey stick graph.
The hockey stick. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, very cool. Very cool stuff. So, okay, well, this is a good place to be, because now that we've identified these happy things going on in our lives, our energy level is up. So now's the time to start looking at abundance and this concept that you brought up of deactivating lack and activating abundance. So I'm going to let you introduce the concept. Go ahead.
Well, it's something that has really struck me stronger than a lot of other topics over the last year. When I received a channel transmission that I get from this lady, Aliyah Mira from Pasadena. She channels what she calls the Council of Radiant Light. And reading this one piece that she channeled, and it was called Deactivating Lack, Deactivating the Energy of Lack, the Energy of Limitation. And when I read it, I realized, wow, this was one of the main themes that's been in my life. And because she said that what lack comes down to is the statement, I don't have what I want. I don't have what I want. And that basic statement is the essence of lack in our lives. And it made me think really clearly and carefully about all the ways in my life that I have said or continue to say that I don't have what I want. So if it's around money, if it's around something about my body, something about my possessions, my car, my clothing, my friends, my money in the bank, my current income, no matter what it is, if I'm saying I don't have what I want and that I don't like something, that is manifesting lack. And it made me realize how much I had that going on in my life. I've had that in the past. Not so much now because I'm developing new habits, but it was an old habit, I think, of focusing on I don't have what I want or I don't like something. And realizing that if we focus on that thought and that's those statements and we're focused on lack, then of course the universe just says, okay, then that's what you're going to have. Then we'll give you more of that. Because as you look around your life and you're saying that this is the vision I have of my life. My vision of my life is I don't have what I want. I don't have it here. 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 And so the universe says, okay, and you get more of that.
Boy,
how do we move beyond that?
I'm glad we built up our energy first, because I can just feel the energy falling down as you're saying that.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, there has been a comfort zone in my life around those kind of feelings. And so I've realized that I've needed to develop the habits of realizing what is it to have what I want and what is it to be in that space. And of course, that's one reason I guess I talk so much about things like having an appreciation journal or writing in a journal, that as if you already have what you want in any area of your life. And of course, looking at the things that we already have in our lives that we can appreciate, whether it's something in our immediate environment or it's something that we're just grateful for, like our health, or we're grateful for the wealth that we do have. We're grateful for the car that we do have. grateful for the clothing that I do have, for the food that's in my refrigerator. I'm grateful for all the wonderful books I have, for the hobbies I have, for my guitar. I'm grateful for the music I listen to, for the beautiful day and the weather. I'm grateful for the sunshine, grateful for my breath. That list can be pretty long. But the trick is, am I developing the habit of noticing what I'm appreciating and what is going right? What is it that I do like in my life? Or am I still clinging to or allowing this old habit of what I don't have? Having this sense of I don't have yet enough of something, then, or it's not just the way I want it. And if I'm focusing on that, and it's the old habit of thinking that by focusing on what I don't have, I'll somehow take care of that problem. If I keep noticing that I don't have it, somehow this is helping.
The fact is,
and
too,
it isn't, but it can be a habit.
The fact is that since you are able to list so many good things so easily, it proves just how closely you've been paying attention to stuff like that. Because when you first start out, trying to come up with a list of all those good things going on can actually be pretty challenging, especially if you're feeling depressed or in a really low end of the vibration scale. Just because when you're at that end, you can't really see the other end. I mean, you can see it conceptually, but you can't feel it. You can't experience it. You can't reach out and touch it. And so it becomes harder to identify stuff. So it's actually good that you can identify that many things that are positive.
Yeah, and when I'm in a little better place, as I'm raising my vibration, it becomes easier and easier to notice the things that I'm grateful for. But it's developing the habit of doing it no matter what my feelings are inside. So if I'm feeling pretty bummed out or, like I'm down, well, I notice that it's good to let myself feel those feelings. Go ahead and feel what I'm feeling because I don't want to just repress it. But then,
right,
in a sense, as quickly as I can, I ask myself, well, what is it that I do feel good about? Because I realize, that I need to develop that habit. It's like developing a muscle. And if I've developed the muscle, so clearly of talking about what I don't have and then I'm bummed out about that I need more of this and I need more of that and I wish I had more of this and I wish this thing in my life was going this way instead of that way. Those are the old habits that I've got to move away from. And that's the tricky part, is being willing, really, really willing to move away from that old comfort zone. And an interesting thing that I realized, and that was said in this channel transmission that I was reading, is that the reason we feel bad when we notice lack is because not because we don't have all these things that we think would make us happy, which are nice to have, but it's because we're moving out of alignment with who we really are, because who we really are is completely abundant. Who we really are is totally an empowered being. Who we really are is a being that has everything that it wants and needs, because in the realm of the vortex, in the realm of the infinite, there isn't these limitations, and that's who we really are. And that's why I'm wanting to do channeling now, because when I channel that infinite self, I get more and more in touch with the fact that I am this eternal being that came here to play a game. It didn't come here to get so serious about everything that I get bummed out. So that's the one way that I'm looking at it right now, is it's about developing these new habits.
It is. And when we're developing new habits can take a while to kick into gear, because, like you're saying, I mean, we can trip ourselves up. We can, stumble and find ourselves falling back on, focusing on the lack and things that aren't working out and so forth. And a big part of the personal development side is just noticing it when we're doing it. It can take a while even just to learn that skill. But once you've learned the skill and you start noticing it and you start reacting to it more quickly and so forth, what you're really trying to do is every time you notice it, you're trying to get yourself back into alignment, which means back into that positive realm. So you develop these tools, right? You develop these practices that have worked well for you in the past, things that you can use to get into a happy place as quickly as possible. Like for me, my best tool for getting into a happy place is listening to positive music, which is it's actually tied with listening to a really, really funny comedian who I like. Getting myself to really laugh. So those are like my two best things to do. And anytime that I'm noticing myself feeling bad, first things, I've actually gotten to the point now where I can just say, okay, push myself up to happy, and I can actually do that now, which there was a time when I would have said that was insane. There's no way you can do that. So I'm really glad that I can do that much now. But if I'm on a particularly bad point in time and I need to feel better and I'm having trouble pushing myself up there, that's when I kind of walk away from what I'm doing for a moment and then just look for something to either laugh at or look for an opportunity to listen to what I call positive music. In other words, music that is upbeat, that has happy lyrics to them, things that music that doesn't have the really negative themes in them. Because if I listen to a bunch of that stuff for usually about 15 minutes, it'll lift my mood right up almost no matter what it is I'm doing. I mean, if I'm really, really, really depressed, 15 minutes probably isn't enough. I may need an hour. But
yeah.
But for the most part, it moves me up pretty quickly.
Do that?
As needed. I mean, I do try to make it a practice to listen to the positive music whenever I take my walks. And during the winter, that's always frustrating because with snow on the ground, it makes it harder to go take the walks. But each time that I am able to get out there, I do that. And then during spring, summer, and fall, I'm walking practically every day, and so I can listen to the music every day. And it's like clockwork. It's just amazing.
So, did you have the habit in the past of defaulting to a place of negativity or a feeling of gloom or doom or otherwise depression or sadness or overwhelm?
Oh yeah, and I didn't even realize it. I mean, there was a time. It was around the time that I first saw The Secret that I lived in depression, and I didn't know it.
Yeah,
I really was not aware of that. I mean, when my wife pointed out to me how much negativity was coming out of me, I actually didn't believe it at first. I thought she was just pulling my leg and exaggerating, that kind of thing. And then I started monitoring what was coming out of my own mouth, and I said, wow, when did I say something positive last? And I realized it was a long time since the last time I'd said something positive. And that's when I finally began to realize, okay, I got a little work to do here. How the heck do I do this? I kind of wish I had discovered the positive music right after that, because that would have made it easier.
You did what right after that?
I wish I had discovered positive music right after that as a thing that really activates me well. I did not discover that until like the last year or so. But if I had discovered it then, what was a 10 to 11 year journey would have turned into a 1 or 2 year journey. It would have been a lot quicker.
So you don't have things in your life now that are sort of riding you sometimes to be down? Oh, yeah.
But they aren't nearly as powerful. And the reason they're not nearly as powerful is I have been very persistently and with varying degrees of determination, I've been keeping after finding ways to feel good, finding ways to feel happy, and trying to, I set the goal a number of years ago of wanting to be happy all day long. And while I can't say I am happy all day long, I have certainly improved my average emotional set point, shall we say. Because your emotional set point isn't fixed. It isn't locked in stone. It changes throughout the day, right? So I figured, well, okay, let's aim for being in the positive zone all the time and preferably toward the higher end of the positive zone all the time. Well, I haven't quite got there, but I have, through trying to get there, I have raised it high enough now that most of the time I'm feeling pretty good. And so it's pretty rare for me to fall into that negative area now. And if I do fall into it, I don't stay there very long because I have all these little tools I developed for climbing out.
Okay. So what are some of those?
Again,
besides the music.
Well, music and laughing are my number one and number two. And I'm not sure which one I put number one, but they're my two best ones. But beyond that, a lot of the things you talked about. I mean, for me, during my walks, I pay attention to nature. That was one of the first things that my wife suggested to me when she was saying, hey, you're pretty depressed there, guy. And she said, just go out and because I was walking anyway. I'd been doing walks for years. She said, just, while you're out there, just look at the nature up close. Go study a flower up close. Look at the inside of the flower. Watch the animals and what they're doing, and look at the shapes of the trunks of the trees, and notice the shapes of the trees against the sky with the way the leaves and branches are shaped. And I mean, just look at all of it. Enjoy the blueness of the blue and the yellowness of the sun and everything. And that is a good activity to do. That one, if nothing else, it distracts you from the negative stuff you're dealing with, and it does have a positive feeling to it that does help. So there's another example.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'm doing a lot more of that, of noticing in the moment what it is that I'm appreciating and giving myself permission to. I think what I've done a lot in my life in the past is I devalued things that I had. I didn't give them sufficient value, and I would put a lot more value on the belief that of the thing that I wanted in the future. That's a great couch, but I would like to have a different one. Or that's a great jacket, but I know there's a lot better ones out there. Or this is a great kitchen, but I wish I had the gas stove. It's a great car, but I would really like the more advanced model, or just getting something that's new and or having a wonderful new experience and then discounting it is I think it's one of the things in cognitive psychology. They talk about discounting. I believe it's basically just making things so they're never quite enough. I think it comes from perhaps an old belief in perfectionism, maybe that was ingrained in me when I was young, believing that it had to be perfect, and therefore no matter how good I did it, it's still not perfect, And
it wasn't so much a belief in perfection, it was a belief in your own imperfection, and you were trying to prove your imperfection moment by moment practically.
Maybe I was doing something like that. But it's really interesting to develop a habit of appreciating in the moment right now what is, and then also the other complementary habit of appreciating what's not here yet. That's sort of like the essence. One of the big points of law of attraction is to be able to appreciate things before they materialize as manifestations. So if I would like to have, new friends in my life, that I appreciate those friends before I even know who they are. I appreciate the money in my bank account before it's at the amount that I want it to be. I'm already appreciating that it's there, that it is at that amount that I want it to be, or appreciate a new car, a particular model I wish I had before I have that model. I'm already starting to appreciate it. I find that that's the key, because those things are already in my vortex. They're already there because I want them. If I know that I want something, then it's already created by the universe. The infinite already creates that thing, and then it's whether or not I can let it in.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting too that when we are in that pattern you're describing, we tend to think that if I have X, and if I focus on appreciating that I have X, I have somehow cut myself off from getting to X times 10.
Oh, like if you appreciate the thing in the present, then you've settled?
Yeah, you've settled. You can't go any further. It's like this subconscious belief that, I don't dare do that because I'll never get to where I want to go to, which is not true at all. But I don't know about you. I've experienced that one a lot. And every once in a while I'll notice it and I'll say, why the heck am I thinking that? That's not even close to true. But I do. I don't get it.
Yeah. I know. It's the old trick of believing that that by appreciating, you just said it, but appreciating what is, somehow we won't get anything better. And yet I find that to be the little trick in law of attraction that I really have to convince myself that's not how the universe works. If I'm, say, in a certain relationship and the person I'm with is not behaving in the way I wish they were, and it seems like it's chronic and that I'm stuck with that, then if I turned around and said everything I appreciate about her, that, or him, if I'm in whatever kind of friendship or relationship,
Right.
if I start appreciating only the things I appreciate, and start listing those things to myself, on a piece of paper, or I list them in my head, and I start focusing on them, that then I'll really be stuck with that relationship, because, now I've told myself I really like this person, and I'm not happy being around this person, and so therefore I'm locking myself to them. Well, that's not, according to Abraham and all these law of attraction things, that's not how it works. It works the opposite. When you start saying the things you appreciate about your life, you then open the doors, you open the floodgates, they say, to let in everything that you really do want, because you're vibrating with appreciation. You're vibrating with what you want. You're telling the universe, okay, more of the things I appreciate. Bring me more of the things I appreciate.
Right. Yeah, I was reading a passage from one of the Abraham books just last night, and the passage really reiterated the fact that it isn't so much the words, it isn't so much the intentions, it isn't so much any of that stuff. It's the vibration, and you can vibrate positively, thinking about positive stuff, or you can vibrate negatively, thinking about positive stuff. That's what we call the lack end of the stick, so to speak. But you can do either one.
Yeah.
You can
right.
it's even possible to say, I love my life, I love where my life is going, and if you're saying all that while feeling really bad about it, it's as if you said to the universe, I want the lack of it, and your vibration is at the low level. So you said all the right things, and yet it didn't feel right, and you didn't allow it to feel right, so it didn't actually help.
All because you didn't allow yourself to get to that high vibration level.
I know, and for the trick is, and for our listeners, and for all of us, is, so when we're in that place where we're not able to feel it, and we're feeling the opposite, we're feeling the sadness, or the anger, or the frustration, or just the resignation of the fact that we just can't get what we want. How do we get our vibration to the point of vibrating with what we want? And that's the trick with all my clients and with myself. I find that we're always looking at that, like, okay, how do we raise that vibration? And, of course, Abraham says you can go general, and that's one of the best things to do, is simply like what you do. You turn and you say, okay, where's some happy music? Where's a comedian I can listen to? Where's, can I get outside and appreciate nature? Can I go fix myself something delicious to eat? And, as long as we're not, adding to that another problem there,
right.
overeating. But whatever, but that's the muscle of developing this ability to turn towards our appreciation, to turn towards something. That's why I like, every time I'm developing the skill of, for example, like I walked in my bathroom the other day, and I'm just like saying, I really appreciate that I have this wonderful shower. I really appreciate that I have this great toilet. That might seem like a small thing, but it is a great thing that I have that in my house, that I've got these things.
Agree.
And I wasn't saying it to hype myself up. I was saying it just because I want to develop this muscle of appreciation, and just being easy about it, being gentle and fun, just having fun saying the things that I appreciate. I can appreciate so many things. There's all the colors that are in this living room I'm sitting in right now, the amazing, there's a multicolored carpet on the floor that's got amazing patterns in it that somebody, spent a huge amount of time to create this carpet. It's just fantastic carpet. And to be in the appreciation of all these things is just, it's sort of like just getting more relaxed about life and saying, life is handing me a lot of gifts every second. And maybe I could just get off this idea that I'm so worried about not having something that I think I need to make me happy. Maybe if I can just find happiness in all these little things, or like do what you said, you say you push yourself to happiness. And I know when I was the most depressed several years ago, I went through telling myself every day when I got up, I choose to feel good today no matter what. And I actually willed myself into feeling good. day after day after day, and it felt really fantastic to do that.
Yeah, it's something I actually set a goal on for myself about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago, because I realized that all of my focus on what I wanted to attract into my life, the things, the experiences, the events, the people, and so forth, was wearing me out because I really wasn't in a happy place. And what Abraham reiterates in many different ways is we actually don't live this life to have the things. Yes, they are part of the life, but that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to feel joy and to just love being here and love everything that's going on and diving in and just enjoying everything about life. That's the real purpose. That's why we come here. So I said to myself, well, if that's the case, then before I even, spend any more energy trying to attract things, maybe what I should really be trying to do is attract feeling happy. And that's one of the things that motivated me to do the podcast. That's one of the things that motivated me a couple months ago to expand the podcast and do it more often. Because I've been constantly looking for ways to make myself feel happy, joyful, appreciative, every moment, loving every moment of every day. That is my goal. And I figure once I get there, and I am getting there, I'm almost there 100%. Not quite, but almost. I'm getting there. Once I get there, then attracting stuff's going to be a friggin' piece of cake, let me tell you, because there won't be any resistance left, right? That's what resistance is. It's the negativity. It's the negative feelings, the bad feeling stuff. Well, if I can eliminate the bad feeling stuff, guess what? All the resistance is gone. Hooray!
Well, it actually works that way. I've seen so many things flow into my life that I've wanted when I just more and more am saying to myself, everything is always flowing to me. Everything's always working out for me. And all is well. And the more that I get into that place and then I see things that I'm appreciating and I'm grateful for them, I feel that appreciation in my heart and I just go light with it. I just chill out about the things that are bothering me or the things I wish I had more of, the things I feel the lack about. I don't have enough of this. I don't have enough of that. I don't like this. I don't like that. Instead, I just back off all of that and just say, I do like this. I do like that. I do like this. I do like that. Get my focus into, and even in memories, I mean, you can think back and think of things that have gone really well for me. Sometimes I think about like this previous career I had when I worked with college textbooks for about 27 years. And of all the days when I just was so fulfilled doing that work because it was making so much money and it was so much fun interacting with professors on college campuses all day long. And go back into any kind of a feeling of how wonderful it was at Christmas when I was a little kid and what summers were like when I was a kid. I mean, I was just thinking yesterday of how much, in fact, the little channeling thing I did, that's what came in the channeling was how happy I was as a child because I would come home from school and the second I could get outside, as soon as I had a snack or whatever it was, did some chore my mother wanted me to do, but then I was free, and it was, say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's Southern California, and I'm moving out into this completely warm, beautiful day, and the sun's shining, and all I'm doing is looking for fun. All I'm doing is looking for my friends, and we're all committed to one thing, all of us kids. We're going to have fun here. But what are we going to do? We're going to play kickball. We're going to play, all these different games that we love to play.
Right.
Football, whatever it was, and that felt so good. And I said, this is how I want to be now in my life. I want to just more and more be anticipating fun, anticipating doing fun things,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, for listeners who love the idea of participating in fun things and who are enjoying what we're doing in this podcast and perhaps even enjoying other podcasts, enjoy more of them. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed so far, go ahead and subscribe because we're finding that the people who subscribe are listening to all the podcasts or most of the podcasts. And now that we have basically 11 times more podcasts than we used to, they're taking advantage of it. We can see it in the numbers. So we want you to do the same thing. And we also want you to share it with others too, because
it's harder to always find new people who have not heard the podcast before. So we would appreciate your help with that, and your friends would appreciate it too. They'll appreciate you because you know how it is. You recommend something and it really is good, and they look at it and they like it. Well, they thank you and they say, "Whoa, I'm so glad you turned me on to that," and so on. In whatever way that your friends and you talk to each other, that's the message that comes through. So please do it, because everybody benefits when we all learn about LOA Today and start listening to it and start sharing it. And the cool thing is, as the audience grows, we're going to be able to do more and more. I mean, right now we have expanded from 1 show per week to 11 shows a week. But just imagine when we've been able to continue the expansion, and now we're able to offer it 24 hours a day. So you can just tune into a live broadcast at any point in time. Well, that's one of the places we're trying to get to as soon as we can. We can't get there until we have enough audience to attract all the right people in. So that's why it's really important to help us build the audience, because that makes it possible for us to get even more talent on the air here, giving you not just your daily dose of happy, but your minute-by-minute dose of happy. So please take the moment and share the LOA Today show with your friends. We appreciate it.
Good. Yeah, so it comes down to focus. That we have this amazing range with our focus, and it's always in our control. So we can always put our focus on something that will uplift us more than something else. And that's the hard thing to understand. Sometimes it's been, for me, when I am feeling bummed out and when I am feeling that I don't have what I want, to then just go, okay, what do I have that I want? What do I have? What can I focus on? What can I focus on that is good, that I like, that feels good? And I really feel like it's also developing a lifestyle where we fill our lives more with things that we love. Because if we've been a kind of person who's been trying so hard to be happy or trying so hard to have the life we want, and we've been focused on struggling, in a way, I had a lot of that in my life, focused on, reading more books and doing more exercises to try to get myself into a better place. But the focus became so much on the exercise of trying to change my focus that it wasn't really changing my focus. The focus was on the struggle.
Right.
And to get the focus on the ease is the trick, and I find that coming from a background of, in my adult years, of having a lot of focus on the struggle of life, that now I'm reorienting myself back to the childhood ideas of fun.
Yeah.
Back to like you do with your happy music or listening to a comedian.
Right.
But, what really is fun, and do I let myself have fun? Do I let myself do fun things? Do I make even the task I'm doing, how do I turn them into fun? So I'm asking myself constantly, is this fun? Am I enjoying this? Is this what I want to be doing right now with my time? Because just because I'm reading some book, but then I look at it and go, this book is actually pretty serious. It's not really that much fun for me. I'm reading this because I'm trying to get to some place where I'm enlightening myself in some way, but it's not really that much fun to read this book. What would be fun to read,
Yeah. In fact, as I look at our title, Deactivating Lack and Activating Abundance, that first part, Deactivating Lack, it reminds me of a man I was trying to help about exactly a year ago. He had called me, and he was in very much of a state of depression. He was really like landlocked into his negative realm, and I was trying to teach him these basic concepts and help him to climb out and so forth. And I realized that every time that I tried to talk about activating his abundance, I wasn't using those words, but that's what I was trying to talk about, he would turn into focusing on the lack. And it didn't make any difference really what I brought up. I mean, I would talk about looking at the positives, finding your happy things, all that kind of stuff. I would go into great detail about that, and he'd nod his head, yes, I understand. And then the next thing out of his mouth was how he felt depressed. And I'm thinking, that's a really interesting thing. Why is he doing that? It finally dawned on me,
not even during the process, but after we broke up, because we gave up doing it after about, 7 or 8 sessions, something like that. It finally dawned on me what was going on. Everybody who is trying to get to that happy place has to reach one particular point, and that is the point of saying, I've had enough. I've had enough of feeling lack. I've had enough of feeling depressed. I've had enough of feeling down. I've had enough of all that. I'm just done with it. And I realized he hadn't reached that point yet. He wasn't done with it. He said he was. He thought he was, but he really wasn't. He really wanted to keep going there. He was just insisting on going there. He wasn't done with it yet. Yeah. He hadn't reached bottom, so to speak. He hadn't hit bottom. And until you hit your own particular bottom, and no one can tell you where that is other than you, until you hit that point of, like, I just don't want to fall any lower than this. This is just more than I can handle. I'm ready to make some changes. Until you get there, no one can help you, including yourself. You have to make that decision at some point. That was the big takeaway I had from it. So this whole concept of deactivating lack is dependent on, are you ready to make the change?
Yeah, with the most difficult clients that I've worked with, I find that the pattern is pretty much that they have such a strong habit of talking to themselves in ways that are self-defeating. In other words, they just develop a whole litany of things they say to themselves and they say to others that guarantee that they will go in around and around in a circle of the same problem. You know, that they just developed a strong opinion. Like, I noticed that some of those clients, they argue with me for the first, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 sessions. They'll argue their case about why they're depressed or about why it's not going to work, the things I'm saying, and also they don't even really hear what I'm saying. They can't understand that there's another way to look at this and that how they're sabotaging themselves. Because they haven't had that much experience with believing in feeling good and believing in this, developing this mindset of everything's going to be fine and that things can work out beautifully and that things can flow and that it can be easy and it can be fun and that their best results are going to come when they're in that place. It's sometimes, I've had clients where it's taken up to 8 or 9 sessions before they start seeing things that way. And then, oh my God, it's so cool when they make that switch, because it's like a light switch went on. It's like they just woke up from a sleep, and really in a way they are waking up from a really bad dream, because they're starting to realize, wow, there's another way I can perceive my day. There's another way that I could be feeling throughout, and as things come up that seem threatening and challenging and troublesome, I can deal with it in a different way, and I can be developing this muscle, this new muscle of enjoyment, and that this is a whole other way to live. So yeah, it's a big deal for a lot of people.
It is a big deal, and it's, in addition to all of the things that you just itemized, it's also coming to a decision that basically says, I am responsible for how I feel, and I'm willing to accept that responsibility, and I'm willing to do something about it. Because until they're willing to do that, until a person is willing to come to terms with the fact that everything they have felt, they have done to themselves, and stop blaming it on all the external factors. Oh, my wife treated me badly, my husband treated me badly, my friend treated me badly, my boss treated me badly, my teacher treated me badly, my administrator treated me badly, you know, the guy down the street treated me badly, the guy in the next cubicle treated me badly, all these people are treating me badly. Hey, guess what? You're the one who reacted, not them. You're the one who decided how you're going to feel about it, not them. You're the one who said, I don't like that. I choose to feel bad about that, not them. But until we're willing to come to terms with that, we stay stuck. Because that's a very, in a sense, it's a very safe place to be. It's not a healthy place, but it's a safe place to be, because now, if you're in that place, you don't have to feel like you're responsible for anything that happens. You can blame everything. You can blame all over the place, and you don't ever have to look at yourself inside. The problem is, of course, when you do that, you don't go anywhere. You don't improve. You don't get better.
And that's the balance. Yeah. That's the question that everybody has to face at one point or another. Am I going to take responsibility for the way I react to stuff that goes on around me?
Yeah, that's the number one way that we externalize our victimhood. Feeling that we're at the mercy, we're at the effect of politics, we're at the effect of the environment, we're at the effects of other people, we're at the effect of disease and illness, and we're at the effect of the economy, and we're at the effect of our bank account and all that stuff we're the victim of. But the hardest thing when we're done blaming things outside ourselves is when we're blaming things inside ourselves.
Oh yeah,
and we're saying,
that's just as bad.
I mean, I remember when I was going through my major transition about 4 years ago, after I really started to get into the law of attraction, and it was changing everything about me. But right before that happened, I came to this realization. I was doing tapping and all these other things with energy psychology to try to get out of this depression I'd been in for several years since my divorce in 2010. And I remember the day I realized, you know what? I am a victim of myself. I think of myself as such a perpetrator of depression and sadness and anger and stuckness, just feeling so stuck in my own stuff that I realized that I was a victim of myself, and that didn't work either. So I had to quit thinking of myself as a victim of me and start realizing that I had the ability to be personally empowered, and that I had the ability to make choices and change my focus to become aligned with this more eternal being that I am, that doesn't have all these problems and that really knows who I am. So it's still an ongoing journey, and maybe it'll be that way for many, many years of accepting the fact that I'm an eternal being that is infinitely resourced to have the life that I want to have in every way that I want to have it, and that I'm not the victim of anything, and especially not the victim of myself. It's quite a journey.
It is, and I think you're right. I don't think it ever really ends, because even as I made progress over time, even as I got myself more and more frequently into the positive emotion zones and felt more happy more often, even as all that happened, you still start unearthing the resistance that's been kind of deeply buried inside you, that you're just not even acknowledging that's there. And as it starts to come out, you realize, well, there's one more instance of where I was just not allowing myself to believe that I am responsible for the feeling. I was just trying to blame it on something else. It just keeps, every once in a while, another piece of it comes out, and you wonder, like, when is this going to end? I mean, how much more stuff do I have buried down there anyway?
Yeah. But there'll always be contrast, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, we get to a place where we want to be, and then we realize that there's even more that we want, and then that sometimes brings up what stands between us and having that more that we want, and that's the infinite expansion that we're part of. But it's nice when we get to the place where our dominant feeling, like now my dominant feeling is like you. Throughout most of my day, I feel like I am in control of my own happiness, and that I'm able to constantly make little tweaks and little adjustments that send me more in the direction of my happiness, or that open the doors to more ease, that open the doors to more fun. And that is in my control.
Which is encouraging.
Yeah, there's this thing at the beginning of this channel transmission that I talked about, deactivating the energy of lack, where they say you are meant to bypass your history of living in limitation and instead focus on confidently feeling completely at liberty to express yourself and discover what you like. You're meant to be here feeling good, feeling capable, feeling free, having fun, being in your knowing, discovering what you like, discovering what you prefer, discovering what pleases you, and choosing freely to have experiences that do please you, living in ways that suit you, having more fun day after day after day.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like my mantra now, is that's what I'm here to do. Nothing serious is actually going on. That's that's the thing that blows my mind so many times, is realizing that, you know what, this is not meant to be this drama of intense freak out about not having everything the way I want it. You know, this is meant to be a place to have fun and to play.
Exactly.
It's really interesting to talk to people who are on the verge of, you know, being completely bankrupt or broke, who are struggling crazily to survive, and to tell them, you know, you're really here just to have fun and just to play. You know, it's like, what?
That's
Get out
definitely
of my face.
That's mind bending. Yeah, yeah. That's a long way away from where you feel when you're in that lack of money phase, because it feels like nothing could possibly be enjoyable. You want me to be enjoying life? Are you out of your mind? You can't do that. And to be honest, sometimes you can be so far away you can't do it all in one great big leap. You have to do it in pieces. But nevertheless, you can't let the feeling of, wow, that seems so far away, stop you. You have to start taking those intermediate steps to get there. You can't just stay where you are, because who wants to stay where you are, right? When you're in that bad place, why would you want to stay there? There's really not any good reason to stay there, and there's every reason to want to get out.
You feel overwhelmed. You know, you feel overwhelmed with the fact that you don't have what you want. And it's like that thing we said at the beginning of the show: I don't have what I want. I don't have what I want. I don't have what I want. And it's not coming. It's not coming. It's not coming. And where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And yet, the hardest thing, and yet what we need to do at those times, is find a way to find relief from that way of thinking, because that way of thinking is what keeps us stuck there, is what got us to be in the place where we're broke and we're trapped, is that we think so strongly about not having what we want. And so that's why developing this muscle of this ability to say, okay, I've got to chill out. I know I don't have what I want. I know it hasn't been coming. It might have been that way for years, but I can't keep thinking that way. I've got to now start thinking, in the midst of my not having what I want and wondering where it is every single moment of my day, where's the money I need? Where's the money I need? Where's the relationship I want? You know, we've got to then say, okay, what is it that I do have, that I do like, and how can I focus on allowing in the thing that I really know is going to be the solution, instead of being so focused on my problem.
Yeah, because we do have a tendency to think about...
That's the essence.
We do have a tendency to think about the lack part, don't we? Where I lack this great big thing that I want, and if I had that great big thing, now I'd finally be happy. Now I could finally relax and say, okay, now I'm going in the right direction, now I can feel good. Not realizing, of course, that it works exactly diametrically the opposite. You don't... It almost never works out that when you get something, you feel happier. But when you feel happier, then it becomes easier to get whatever the thing is. It's the opposite of what we expect it's going to be. That was one of the big key points that Sean Aker made in his book, The Happiness Advantage, that we falsely assume that you have to feel success before you can be happy. And actually, when social scientists study it and do controlled studies with control groups and so forth, they find it's just the opposite. If you want to predict a person's happiness levels based on their success, you're going to be right about 10% of the time. But if you want to predict someone's success levels based on their happiness, you're going to be right about 90% of the time. And that just flies in the face of what we're taught, right? We're taught that if you want to be happy, you have to be successful first. Well, it's not true. It's the exact opposite.
Well, and when the thing we want seems like it seems like a crushing need, like if you're in pain, you can't tell somebody, just get happy and you'll be out of pain. Or if someone is completely broke, tell them, just don't worry about your money, just find happiness and your money will come. It's hard to hear it at those times. It's very hard to hear that.
Right, it's too big of a leap.
Your problem seems so all-consuming, right?
Right.
And the point that I'm making, and yet, isn't it true that by law of attraction, until somehow our vibration changes, that other thing we want, that thing we want so desperately, that money or that lack of pain, for that pain to leave our body, it's going to happen more likely when we find some way to relax. We find some way to chill out, some way to say, okay, I've got to just go do this thing. I'm going to go do this thing, or I'm going to go do that thing, or I'm going to find some way that I take my mind off this intense struggle that I'm stuck in, that I'm feeling so overwhelmed by, and I'm going to somehow put my focus on something that feels a little bit better. What feels a little bit better? What can I go general on and just focus on the blue sky? What can I focus on? That something that I can feel good about, even in the midst of my thinking that I'll only get happy when I finally have this thing that I think I need.
That's why Abraham talks about going up the scale incrementally. So if you're feeling depressed, go for anger, because at least anger is one step up on the scale. It gives you a chance to voice your depression, right, to express it. And then once you get to the anger stage, okay, don't stay there. Move up to the next stage. I don't remember what the next one is, but maybe it's feeling just frustration or just feeling a little pissed off, starting to feel pissy. Or maybe it's actually just getting to the point where you're in a lesser negative frame of mind, such as like feeling, malaise or just kind of being a little down, that kind of thing. But now at being a little bit down, you're quite a bit higher on the scale than you were when you were depressed. And then once you got to that point, then you go for feeling, neutral. And then you go for feeling hopeful. And then you go for feeling appreciative. And you just work your way up. And when you do it that way, then you can get there, because then you can see each step of the scale. But you're right. If you're trying to go from depressed to happy, you just can't even see it. It's not even in your visual range.
Yeah. But yet, little things can happen. Little things can happen. Like the guy in the hospital, the story was told, I think, by Joe Dispenza, who has just had this most intense pain, that he was in this pain 24/7. The pain was overwhelming. He was in it all the time. And one day they brought in some little puppies into the hospital, and he started playing with these puppies. And a couple hours went by, and then they took the puppies away, and he realized, and his caregivers realized, that during that time he actually completely was distracted from his pain. He felt no pain during those 2 hours.
Which is powerful.
It's just a sign, that there is always a way. There is always a way to be distracted from the thing that we're so incredibly focused on.
Yeah.
Even if we think we're totally the victim of it, we can be distracted, and there is a way to always find relief.
That's why I like
and that's just important to realize.
That's why I like the whole idea of listening to a comedian that I love. My go-to, you were asking before, what's my go-to, and I really, really need to get myself feeling good, and I'm having trouble doing it. There is an episode of Inside the Actors Studio that appeared on the Bravo TV network where Robin Williams was the special guest. And you can actually get a copy of it. You can buy a copy of the DVD of that broadcast. But for the first 10 minutes of that broadcast, before James Lipton even got to ask Robin a single question, Robin was pure Robin. He was just flights of fancy. Whatever came into his mind, it was like bang, 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 bang. And after 10 minutes of it, I mean, they would show this picture of this one woman in the audience. She was red in the face with laughter. Anything he said, she was practically rolling on the floor. That's the way it felt. And it was mostly clean humor, too, which I liked. There was a little bit of blue humor in it. But for the most part, it was pretty clean. And you just, finally, at one point, James Lipton says, well, here's my first question. For my first question, he's been going on for like 10 minutes, right? For my first question, and Robin says, "This is for $5." it just gets you rolling, And the best part is when you have something like that to go to, and you're enjoying it and you're laughing. Laughter is one of the best ways to heal all kinds of stuff, not just mental stuff, but physical stuff too. You get belly laughs going, and it doesn't matter where you were emotionally. You climb that scale. You climb it fast, and you climb it easily because you're just loving it. You're just enjoying it.
Yeah.
Now, it is true that when you're in a really depressed state and you're seeing like something like that, and something that you find funny, a tendency that people have is to say, well, I see that that's funny, and then they leave it at that. They don't actually laugh at it. So sometimes you have to kind of jumpstart the laughter. But if you can if you can make yourself just kind of laugh for a second, you can get it going. Once you get it going, it just keeps building and building and building. And I'm sorry I kept going there because we're down to the last minute, so we can't keep going with the program, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do want to remind people, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe through loatoday.net, through the iTunes store if you're on an iPhone, or make sure you have some podcast software on your Android phone, such as your Motorola or your Samsung or your
the brands aren't coming to mind, Nokia, but any of them, make sure you have podcast software installed, and then just search for LOA Today through that. And Tom, how can they reach you if they need a little private coaching? Because that's sometimes needed when you're trying to get up the scale.
They can go to my website, which is You Are Joy, the 3 words, youarejoy.com. And I offer a free 1-hour coaching session there. And if people enjoy coaching with me, then we can make arrangements to do more.
Sounds great. Tom, have a great weekend. I look forward to talking to you on Monday.
You too, Walt. Okay, thanks so much.
Okay, we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.